Alright, welcome back, Bobcats. We are going to be talking about fractions today. More specifically, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting like fractions. So our objective, our goal today, is when we end, is we're going to be able to add and subtract like fractions, word problems. So, what is a like fraction? We're going to talk about that in just a bit. First, if you'd go ahead and take out your notebook, go ahead and note Chapter 9, Lesson 2 and 3 up on your header. This is our title. We're going to add and subtract like fractions. Make sure you have that up on your header as a title for today's lesson. So let's first take a look at some vocabulary here. These are words that we have talked about before. So you have numerator. Remember the numerator? That is the top of the fraction. And our denominator, that is the bottom of our fraction. So when we are talking about numerator, that is the part. And our denominator, our bottom, that is the whole. So when we're talking about fractions, we're really talking about part and whole. So when we're adding these like fractions today, you're saying, what is a like fraction? Well, a like fraction is when this denominator here, this whole, is the same. Okay? So that is what a like fraction is. It is when the denominator is the same. In order to add and subtract fractions, we have to have our denominator the same. So let's go ahead and add that definition, a like fraction, fractions with the same denominator. Okay, so for example there, a like fraction would be 1/4 and 3/4. If we were to add those together, that would be a like fraction. 3/7 minus 1/7. Those would be like fractions. Why are they like fractions? Because as we look at the denominators, those denominators are the same. All right, let's take a look at this example here. We have a couple pizzas, and you can see the first pizza here. We'll just call this pizza number 1. So how many total pieces does this pizza have? So let's just go ahead and count. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6. And how many pieces does pizza number 2 have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's write this in form of a fraction. So remember, a fraction, we put our part. That goes up on top. Our whole, that goes down on the bottom. Our part is our numerator. Our whole is our denominator. So let's go ahead and write these out as fractions. So our first pizza there, you can see it has 6 total parts, and we have 2 pieces that are still left. So we have 2 6. So we're taking 2 6 and we're going to add that to our second pizza here. It has the same number of pieces, our whole. Our denominators are the same, but this time we only have 1 piece left over. So we have 2 6 plus 1 6. And you can see over here they've modeled that for us here. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have a total of 3 6 that are left over. So adding the 2 pieces here, adding the 1 piece here, gives us a total of the 3 pieces that are left here. So we're left with 3/6 of a pizza. And we have to simplify this fraction, 3/6 of a pizza. So again, finding our GCF of 3 and 6. Our GCF is going to be equal to 2. So we're going to divide our top and our bottom by 2. Top and our bottom by 2. To get our simplified or a reduced fraction. Oops, I did that wrong, didn't I? Wrong GCF. Mr. Day made a mistake. That's all right. We can fix that. Our GCF is 3, not 2. I meant 2 times 3. That's what I was thinking in my head. All right, so let's go back to this. So we are dividing this by 3, not by 2. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So our simplified is 1/2. And you can look at that and see we have 1/2 of the pizza left, right? Half was eaten and half is left. You can visually see that with the model that we have provided. All right, so let's go on to another example here. Again, we are adding the fractions. So this time we have sevenths, you'll notice. Sevenths. So they are like fractions. The denominators are the same. And if the denominators are the same, it means we can go ahead and we can add our numerators. So 3 plus 2, that is how we get 5. 5 sevenths cannot be simplified. So it is in its simplest form. So this time, let's take a look at a subtraction problem. The only difference is the operation. Again, we're doing part over whole. So if we're writing these down as fractions, how many pieces do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total pieces. That is my denominator. How many pieces are colored in? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we have 4/5 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Again, we have like fractions. That's what we have to have in order to add or subtract fractions. We have 1 colored in. So we are going to go ahead and subtract these two numerators from one another. 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. Our denominator, still the same amount of pieces, right? Everything is the same. 3, 4, 5. So we are left with 3/5. That cannot be simplified. They're both prime numbers, so we know it can't be simplified. Essentially, we are taking this first one and we are taking 1 away from it, aren't we? Leaving us 3/5. All right, let's take a look at this next example here. We have 2/3 minus 1/3 equals 1/3. So they've given us the model here of what would be 2/3 colored orange. And we're taking one of those thirds away, which they put the X in, leaving us, well, how much is left over? It would be 1/3. So our steps when we are adding and subtracting here, you probably have figured this out. Let's go ahead and write these down into our notes here. So our steps when we are adding and subtracting. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a common denominator, that these denominators are the same. So make sure the denominator is the same number. So that is the first thing we are doing, making sure that those denominators are the same. In today's lesson, they will be the same. But as we progress on in this chapter, those will start to become different, and we'll tell you how to figure that out then. So once we have determined that the denominators are the same, now we need to either add or subtract the numerators. So that is our top numbers. Remember our numerator, that is the top number. And finally, in our answer, so either in our difference or when we add and find our sum, our denominator is going to stay the same. So let's write that down. The denominator stays the same. And what do I mean by that? So if we look at our sample here, notice we have a 3 here and we have a 3 here. That is a like fraction. We go ahead and subtract the like fraction. The top, our numerator, is doing the subtracting. That's how we end up with 1. But our bottom number, we don't add or subtract the bottom number. That bottom number just gets shifted over. So we still are cutting our pie into thirds, or our pizza into thirds. It's just the amount of pieces, the part up on top, that changes. The whole stays the same. All right, so let's continue on here. I don't want to skip that problem. I want to go over to this problem. So if we take a look at this problem here, we have, first problem is 1/7 plus 3/7. So the first thing I want to check out is make sure that we have common denominators. These are the same. They're both sevenths. We look at our operation. We are adding. So we're adding 1 plus 3. 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. Our sevenths, like we just talked about, step number 3, that stays the same. So our answer is 4/7. Can we simplify 4/7? Remember, is there a common factor between 4 and 7? There is no common factor other than 1 between 4 and 7, so it's already in simplest terms. All right, I'd like you guys to go ahead and try number 2. Pause the video, and then come back for the solution. All right, so let's go ahead and first off, we notice the denominators are the same, so that means we're going to be adding our numerator. 1 plus 1, so we are adding, is 2. I bring down my denominator. Don't add those. Just bring it right on down. I have 2/4. 2 and 4. I can simplify 2 and 4. They both have a common factor of 2. So I need to divide both of these by 2. 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. So our simplified fraction, our correct answer is 1/2. All right, guys, here's a couple more for you to try. I would like you to go ahead and write the sum in simplest form. That is the key word there. Make sure it's in simplest form. Remember, in your homework, it won't be accepted unless the fraction is in simplest form. Go ahead and work on number 3 and number 4, and then come back for the answer to see if you have gotten it correct. All right, so let's go ahead and add this first one. Notice we are adding, so we are taking our numerators, our top of our fraction, and we're going to go ahead and add 1 plus 1. Our 6, that just goes right into our denominator, does not change. So we have 2/6. And we got to ask ourselves, all right, 2/6, is there a common factor between 2 and 6? Yeah, and the answer is exactly 2. There is. So we need to divide our top and our bottom by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2 to get our new fraction. Our new fraction to be 2 divided by 2 would be 1. 6 divided by 2 would be 3. 1/3 is the correct answer. So if you answered 2/6 in your homework, it would be marked wrong because it needs to be in simplest form. All right, let's take a look at number 4. How did we do in number 4 here? Again, we're taking a look at the top of our fraction. So 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. I just bring that 8 in here. Now I have 8/8. Well, obviously, 8/8 is going to be 1/2. 8 divided by 8 is 1. They both have the common denominator of, common factor of 8. So our simplest form is 1. Hopefully you got those correct. All right, let's take a look at some of these now. So notice now the operation has changed. We are now subtracting where we were adding before. Exactly the same steps. The only difference is the operation is different. So again, we're going to take the top of the fraction. We're going to subtract it. 5 minus 3 is 2. The bottom, our denominator, the 7, the denominator, that stays the same. So we have 2/7. Can we simplify 2/7? No, we can't. They're both prime numbers. 2/7 is going to be our simplified fraction. Go through those exact same steps as we did when we were adding. The only difference is now we are subtracting. So again, take our numerator, we subtract 3 minus 2, that's 1. Our denominator stays the same. And I've told you guys before, if you have 1 as a numerator, you cannot simplify the fraction. So with that knowledge, we know that 1/5 is already in simplest form. Let's take one last look at this last example here. So we have 6 minus 3, which is equal to 3. We drop our 9 into our bottom of our fraction, our denominator. Is there a common factor between 3 and 9? Yes, there is. That common factor is 3. So I need to divide the top and the bottom of our fraction to get our new fraction, our simplified fraction. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So our simplified fraction would be 1/3. All right. Let's let you guys try some. If you guys would go ahead and do the, let's do the even numbers on here. So go ahead and do 4, 6, and 8. Go ahead and pause the video and then come back and check your answers to make sure that they are in simplest form. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and do 4, 6, and 8 here. So first one, number 4. We are subtracting 5 minus 3, which is 2. Our denominator falls in 2/6. 2 divided by 6. That can be simplified. We can divide both of the top and the bottom by 2, our GCF, for our new simplified fraction of 1/3. Hopefully you got that simplified. That would be marked wrong. 2/6 is correct, but 1/3 is the answer we're looking for. So make sure you simplify your fractions if you haven't done so. All right, the next one. Let's go ahead and write our fraction here. 3 minus 1 is 2. We put our 5 in here. 2/5. Cannot be simplified. That is the correct answer. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 8. So 5 minus 2. That is equal to 3. Our 9 becomes our denominator. 3/9. 3/9 can be simplified. I can divide both of these by 3. That is our GCF. They're both factors of 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Hey, we're getting a lot of 1/3, aren't we? 1/3 is the correct answer. All right, before we wrap up this lesson, let's take a look at one of these word problems here. So it says, the Indian Ocean is 2/10 of the area of the world's ocean. What fraction represents the area of the remaining oceans that make up the world's ocean? And they want us to write it in simplest form. So what information do we have? So we know 2/10 is the area of the Indian Ocean. They want to know, all right, what is the rest of the oceans? What is the rest of the oceans made up of the world? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this 2/10 and we're going to be subtracting this 2/10 from all of the oceans, which would be 1/2 or 10/10. So when we subtract this, again, we're subtracting our numerators. 10 minus 2, it's equal to 8. And it's out of 10 pieces, 8/10. This 8/10, it can be simplified, can't it? What goes into both 8 and 10 as a factor, that is 2. They're both even numbers, aren't they? Whenever we have two even numbers, we know 2 is going to go in it at a minimum. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we can say 4/5 are the rest of the ocean. All right. Let's go ahead and quickly discuss the end. All right, so what did we learn today? So if you think back to our first slide, we were thinking about our objective. We want to learn how to add and subtract like fractions. So we learned, what are like fractions? Those are fractions with denominators that have the same number. And how do we add and subtract? We add and subtract the top of the fraction. The part gets added, or the part gets subtracted. But the denominator, the amount of pieces it's cut into, stays the same. All right,